Greetings metalheads, welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and today I have another instalment of Heavy Relics for you, where I have 4 more of my latest vinyl purchases, which I'm going to be showing off to you and talking you through. So, all 4 of these particular purchases can safely be classified as death metal or brutal death metal, verging on slam at times, or slamming brutal death metal, or deathcore as well. So we've got brutal death metal and deathcore, really. So I'll admit that, to be honest, I'm quite out of the loop with brutal death metal. I've been steadily trying to refamiliarize myself or reacquaint myself with brutal death metal over the last few months, really. When I was younger, many moons ago, I was pretty much devoted to brutal death metal and slam and deathcore. I listened to it just pretty much exclusively, and then that changed when I discovered sort of old school death metal, and then started to get into thrash and black metal and all of that good stuff. But that aside, I have basically been very much out of the loop with brutal death metal and slam for a long time. However, recently I noticed on Amazon, I can't remember what album it was I was actually searching for, but I noticed that there were a lot of albums from bands on the Unique Leader Records roster that were albums that were new, coloured, nice exclusive vinyl double albums in many cases, such as the Disentomb album that I've recently reviewed, The Decaying Light. Albums that were dirt cheap. I'm talking sort of £9, £10, £11. Really cheap, inexpensive, lovely new vinyl. And for that kind of money, you don't mind taking a chance and giving something a try. So that is what a couple of these purchases in this bundle are. 2 of the bands I was more familiar with, so gave them a chance as well, or tried to pick up where I'd left off with them. But without further delay, let's take you through the first article. This is Vulvodynia, and this is their 4th or 5th album, depending on if you consider one of their releases to be an album or an EP. I think there's a little bit of dispute. Some camps consider one of them to be an album, one to be an EP. Not sure. So it's their latest full-length album from 2021. This is Praenuntius Infinity. Quite a name, quite an album cover. A whole lot of noise going on there. Absolutely insane. And it perfectly represents the music as well. And I assume that this creature up here is meant to be Praenuntius, because this album sort of follows a narrative. It's basically a concept album about this interdimensional, bestial monster creature, whatever, that is destroying worlds, or destroying universes, in fact. So, Vulvodynia, they've recently been in the press as their vocalist, Duncan, I believe his name, Duncan Bentley. He has been kicked out of the band. I believe there's allegations of violence and all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to get into the politics too much, because I still feel like this is an album that's worth talking a little bit about. But I would say, out of all 4 albums that I'm going to be, or releases that I'm going to be talking about here, this is my least favourite. That said, I have now listened to this album about 5 times, I believe, and I must say that with successive listens, it definitely grows on you. It definitely gets better the more that you listen to it. And what I will show you is the absolutely gorgeous colour scheme and the quality of these vinyl. Unique Leader Records, their records are, their LPs, the coloured ones, are absolutely incredible. Absolutely amazing. I've got quite a little collection now, and what you can't see because of the angle, really you need to hold it up to the light, it's just how amazing these are. It's like a splattery, squirly, squirmy masterpiece. It's absolutely brilliant. So just wanted to show that off, that lovely colour scheme. Just like the Pyrexia and Disentomb albums that I have shown off recently on another heavy Relics. It's really high quality, heavy vinyl, really detailed colour scheme. Not a splatter vinyl like some of them that I've shown off, where it's effectively just a clear vinyl with a few sort of green or blue blobs on it. Nothing like that. But this album from Vulvodynia, Praenuntius Infinity, it's a good album. It's very technical. It's very complicated. The musicians are fantastic. You cannot fault the musicianship. They're clearly very adept musicians, really talented musicians. Duncan's vocals are brilliant. He sounds like a fantastic brutal death metal vocalist. So it is a shame that he's no longer with the band. That said, it doesn't really keep me gripped. There are some really good tracks. The Shadowy Descent of Gaia, Internal Wasteland of Galaxies, and then on the second side, or the second disc, when we've got tracks like The Seven Judges, Ravenous Revolution, A Cosmic Betrayal as well, Funeral of the Gods. These are good tracks. These are good tracks. It's effectively brutal death metal. There's sort of deathcore elements in there. There's certain sort of slamming elements, but it's actually really quite technical. It's really involved. I can't quite get my head around some of the material on here, I must admit. The Banquet of Enigmatic Horrors, Terror, and Banquet of Enigmatic Horrors 2, Agony. It's a little bit lost on me. But I would say if you're a fan of sort of technical death metal or brutal technical death metal, you'd probably really enjoy this. But for me, it's lost on me a little bit. But I would say definitely, if you just wanted to kind of get yourself acquainted with it, The Shadowy Descent of Gaia, The Seven Judges, which is probably my favourite track, which is really strong on the narrative there, and A Cosmic Betrayal. Those are my favourite tracks. It's a really lovely vinyl, and like I say, I think it was about £12 or something silly for this lovely gatefold vinyl. I've been a Vulvodynia fan for many years. I haven't kept up to date with them. The last album that I picked up as a new release was Psychosadistic Design. Great album though that was a better album than this one in my opinion. But I would say this is still definitely worth checking out if you like brutal death metal, if you like technical death metal, if you like music which is it's completely immersive because it requires a whole lot of concentration, then you're definitely going to appreciate Praenuntius Infinity. So cheers to that. The second mention then. Now this one was a total wild card. I had never heard of To the Grave, so I definitely never heard of Epilogue. And that artwork is pretty gross. It's pretty dark and pretty horrific. But this was released in 2020. As I say, I'd never heard of To the Grave before. When I read that it was modern deathcore, to be honest, I didn't have the highest of hopes, but I think this was less than £10 for, again, another beautiful double album, coloured album. Look at the glory of that red, that smoky red with a black kind of streaks through it. Absolutely stunning stuff. Really lovely, really high quality. And what I will say, To the Grave, Epilogue, this is freaking great. This is a really, really crushingly heavy album. It's absolutely fantastic. It's firmly within the deathcore category, although there are slam elements in there as well. There are brutal death metal elements in there as well. So really, I would say it's sort of technical slamming, brutal deathcore. But actually, if you want to just not try and pigeonhole everything, then I'd just say this is freaking great deathcore. This is really heavy. I mean, some of the riffs, some of the breakdowns are so crushing, it would stop a freaking train. It's absolutely pummeling stuff. Particular highlights for me, you've got a brilliant opening track, Holocaustralia, because To the Grave are an Australian band. I'm not sure too much about their outside catalogue other than this album. I believe that this album actually combines, Epilogue combines an album with also an EP, perhaps. This was released in 2020, I should say, under license from To The Grave to Unique Leader Records in 2021. So, 2020, 2021, not quite sure. But I would say this is freaking great stuff. Holocaust Australia, great opening there. Ecocide, brilliant. Some of the breakdown riffs on that are monstrous. Pest Control, almost reminds me of early Bring Me the Horizon, which I'm sure to some people will be an absolutely disgusting thing to say. However, it does. Hellhole, absolutely brilliant. Gristleblower, savage as hell. Wastage, Skin Like Pigs, the beautifully titled Lips and Arseholes. Some of the latter material, Miserable Summer, Terrorist Threat, Kill Shelter, Recoil in Horror. It's great. It's really punishing deathcore. Vocally, we have some absolutely phenomenal vocals, really harsh, monstrous kind of deathcore vocals. I believe the vocalist, his name is Dane Evans. Just had to remind myself there. Really good. This is a band, if you like Thy Art Is Murder, if you like I Declare War, then definitely this is a band that you want to check out. These guys are, in my opinion, that they're going to be one of the next generation of deathcore bands who have picked up the mantle from the likes of Whitechapel, and they're really running with it. They're doing something different with it. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but what they do, and they do very well, is take deathcore, shake it up a bit, and do something really quite original with it. To the Grave, Epilogue. Really lovely double album there, double gatefold album, and just a really, really solid, crushing deathcore album. I know deathcore is not for everyone, but honestly, that's a really refreshing take on a subgenre which has been worked and reworked until it's become very dull. Which leads me on nicely to Crown Magneta and Alone in Death. Now, this is actually an EP, really, because it is, 6 tracks, about 20 minutes long. Again, show this one off. This is a really stunning one. Total mismatch of all different colours and all sorts. It reminds me of like a crazy psychedelic lollipop. It's crazy. Really awesome colour scheme. So as I say, this is deathcore. Crown Magneta are an American band. I believe that they have an album coming out sometime in the near future, and I believe they do have some other material as well. I had never heard of them until I had seen this on Amazon. After looking at To The Grave, in fact, it came up as a recommendation. Now, what I would say about Crown Magneta is that they are a deathcore band, and they do not do anything different necessarily to what bands such as Thy Art Is Murder, Suicide Silence, Aversion's Crown, I Declare War, bands like that, early Whitechapel, they're not doing anything massively different from that. But what they do is they do it freaking well. This is great. This really throws me right back to my younger years where I was really big into bands like Whitechapel. They're one of my favourites, and I still highly regard them as being absolute benchmark band for the deathcore subgenre. Really brings home Thy Art Is Murder, I Declare War, bands like that, Impending Doom. This is great. This is nostalgic. I would say they're not doing anything massively different, but they are a really energizing breath of fresh air for a subgenre which has kind of just repeated itself. It's bred itself into a pigeonhole and a real warren that it can't get out of. But Crown Magneta, they are doing a very good, very interesting take on deathcore, sticking true to the the old-fashioned ways of having a vocalist who sounds like an absolute monster, serious, guttural death growls. Those riffs and those breakdowns are absolutely intoxicating, city-leveling, crushing riffs. The drumming is furious and phenomenal and crushing. The bass end is heavy. This is great. This might only be 6 tracks, but I've been listening to this one a lot over the last few weeks, and I love it. I think it's brilliant. I cannot wait to hear their new album when that comes out, because I think that's going to be an absolute city leveler. It's freaking great. Crown Magneto, Alone in Death. If you like Thy Art Is Murder and I Declare War, Impending Doom, if you like bands like that, then you are going to love Crown Magneto, because they have all of the crushing heaviness that those bands have, and more, because it sounds current. It sounds a little bit more up to date, shall we say. So that brings us to the final article then. The final article in this little bundle. Now, this last album from a band that I am familiar with, and I would say that this is an absolute stormer. This is from Vomit the Soul, and this is entitled Cold. This album was released in 2021, and it's the first album from the band in over 10 years. Now, Vomit the Soul, from Italy, they've undergone some pretty radical lineup changes. They've been gone for a long time. Another lovely colour one, sort of like a bubblegum pink. Very interesting, very nice colour scheme there. Really, really cool. A long hiatus, or an actual breakup. But my, this is good stuff. This is more the brutal death metal end of the spectrum. No, it's not deathcore. No, it's not technical death metal. There are sort of technical elements, definitely, but it's just an absolutely astounding album. This is one of those death metal albums where you put it on and you don't necessarily need to keep checking in with what song title you're on or what track you're on, because it just flows seamlessly from start to finish. We've got our lineup here. This is the new lineup, the reunion lineup. So just to recap, we've got Max Santarelli on guitars and vocals. We've got Stefano Rossi Chiucci on bass, and we've got Yuchio Sanigo on drums. So that's our new lineup. But this is a great album. Absolutely love this. Apostles of Inexpression was the last album from the band, I believe it was the last album of the band, and that was years ago, absolutely years ago, over a decade ago. But that was a great album. I remember picking up a copy of that and thinking, this is really, really quite extreme stuff. Obviously, I didn't hear it until maybe a few years after it actually come out, but I was really impressed. So many years later, to see Vomit the Soul come up again, I was very intrigued. And as I say, this was around £10 or something. Certainly affordable, and certainly money well spent, because it's start to finish beautifully brutal. Particular highlights for me include Irreversible Damnation, Mausoleum of Ineptitude, The Lost Aurea, and Deprivation of the Soul. Absolutely brilliant stuff. This is crushing, brutal death metal. It's fast. There's no slow tracks. There's no acoustics. There's no doomy passages. There's no ballads here. It is blast beat central, chugging, crushing riffs. Vocals are monstrous. Not quite the level of bestial monstrosity that we get with Crown Magneto or To the Grave, but it's just really solid, brutal death metal. If you've never heard of Vomit the Soul, then I would say Cold is just as good a place to start as any, or the Apostles of Inexpression as well. If you like or are familiar with bands like Defeated Sanity, other bands, maybe Inherit Disease, Disgorge, even Suffocation, then definitely, if you like those bands, you're going to find something here that you enjoy, because these guys are freaking great, and I am really enjoying this album currently. It's not a particularly long album, it's around half an hour, so it's not a massive commitment, but if you like death metal, Fast and Furious, not the crappy film franchise, but if you like Fast and Furious death metal, then you are absolutely going to love this album. This is definitely a winner. My favourite out of this little bundle for sure. It's just great. Italian brutal death metal. All speed, all killer, absolutely no filler. So, there we have it. That's my latest Heavy Relics bundle. So just to recap, going in reverse order. Vomit the Soul with Cold. Absolutely love it. I love that artwork as well. Brilliant stuff. Such a lovely high quality package on Unique Leader Records. Then we've got the EP in this lovely gatefold format from Crown Magneto. This is Alone in Death. We've got 6 absolutely furious, crushing deathcore tracks, sticking very much true to the formula in the good old-fashioned deathcore vein. Then we've got To the Grave with Epilogue, a lovely double album in this very high-quality package. This is seriously crushing deathcore. Absolutely beautiful stuff. I'll definitely be checking out their new album when that comes out. I'm not sure what it's called, but I believe it comes out in the next few months. And then we've got Praenuntius Infinity from Vulvodynia from South Africa. Crushing band. Maybe a little bit too technical for my liking, but still, you've got some great tracks on here. Anyway, a lovely double album. Really high quality package indeed from Unique Leader Records again. So thank you for watching, my friends. What are your thoughts and opinions on these particular albums? Are there any To the Grave fans, Crown Magneto fans, Vulvodynia fans, Vomit the Soul fans? If you're not familiar with any of these bands, check them out. You've got nothing to lose. Go on YouTube, go on Spotify, just check out a couple of tracks. Might not be for you, but actually you might surprise yourself. You might find something that you really enjoy. So thanks for watching, my friends. Do feel free to like and subscribe. Do feel free to check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all the good heavy things. Above all, my friends, do take care and stay heavy.